Let's start with our top story this morning, and that is the fall of Afghanistan. So if you read, just look at the news headlines this morning. We're out of Afghanistan officially this morning. We finally left. And just look at how the mainstream media portrays this, right? We're out of Afghanistan, and here's the photo and that they choose to use as their thumbnail. Last U.S. troops leave Afghanistan after nearly 20 years. Instead of, by the way, showing like the aircraft that's taking off and us leaving, this is the image they want to show, right?
Of course, they've got to prove to us that it's bad that we're leaving.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. It's bad. So, that we're leaving. This is what we're leaving, and we should probably shouldn't have left.
There's probably a 99% chance we did that to that car.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it is over, or is it? The last plane of U.S. troops left Afghanistan just 1 minute before the deadline set by President Joe Biden, marking the end of a 20-year conflict. General McKenzie was asked this question, is every American out of there? And here's what he had to say.
Thank you. General McKenzie, Tara Kopp with Defense One. Can you assure the American public that every single U.S. service member is now out of Afghanistan?
Every single U.S. service member is now out of Afghanistan. I can say that with 100% certainty.
Carla.
There you go.
But
they're out.
Blackwater and those people, the mercenaries, they're not U.S. troops. You know what I mean? They're
going to stay there. So any of the, I would imagine like the contractors. But I don't know. The Pentagon literally pulled up all the funding. So I don't know how they'd get paid. This is why, we'll get to this next war in a moment. Like, where are we headed next in this? Because I guess if the money's not in Afghanistan anymore and we're not really going to be funding it anymore, where will these defense contractors want to go? We'll get to that. But a large C-17 carrier was wheels up last night with the last American troops. There are approximately 100 to 200 Americans that wanted to stay in Afghanistan, in country, as they call it, and thousands of Afghanistans who were considered allies to the United States were not evacuated yet. So I guess that's still next, but U.S. service troops are out of there. The Wall Street Journal says that there could be as many as 60,000 allies still there, which could be now facing retribution from the Taliban, right? That's what the Wall Street Journal is saying, right? By the way, the Wall Street Journal, which brought you this image. So, yep, we're out of there. 60,000. So we're leaving these 60,000 people to the mercy of the Taliban, right? Not everyone's happy about this, though, as you can imagine. The warmongers, I don't know if you caught mainstream media. How many of you could admit to me, tell me, how many of you were watching mainstream media yesterday and saw just the warmongers and generals? They're all over television. They were all crying in their oatmeal. They were all crying in their Wheaties. And even this morning, they're crying about it. And so-called journalists who are not supposed to be really editorializing are crying about it. NBC's Richard Engel, who's supposed to be a journalist, thinks that we shouldn't be leaving. These war correspondents, and I've liked Richard Engel over the years. And my wife has liked him as well. But I have to say, this is like a bridge too far. These war correspondents might have to change their name to peace correspondents. This is how they make their money. Well, the backlash, I was actually surprised to see this. The backlash from Richard Engel last night, editorializing about leaving Afghanistan, was pretty severe online.
But then, if you step back and you look at what is going on, this is the United States after 20 years. This war used to be called Operation Enduring Freedom, and it's turned out...
By the way, this used to be called, I don't even know, it's been 20 years. How am I going to even remember what it was called? This was called, what was this? Desert Fox? Enduring War? I can't remember.
I think it should have been Enduring Occupation.
Enduring Occupation. Yeah. I can't even remember what it's called. It's been so long.
Not to be enduring, and they're not leaving behind a society that is free. It is only free according to what the Taliban says it will be free. The Taliban promises that it will be free. So you could also look at this as a tremendously humiliating moment of American humiliation, right. Leaving forced.
So wait, the humiliation is in us leaving. Well, to be clear, it's not humiliating that we went there in the first place. That's not humiliating? No, the leaving is humiliating. Okay. To you, who makes money off of it as a war correspondent and writes books about it.
Believe on the Taliban's clock and with the Taliban's good graces. So tactically it makes sense, but I'm not sure how history will. I think history will judge this moment as a very dark period for the United States.
So he says, I'm not
History
sure.
will already be judging us.
Yeah. But I love how he says, I'm not sure how history, and then he stops himself and he says, I think history will judge us poorly for this.
United States.
So I'm not sure how history will judge us. And then he stops himself and says, well, I'm going to tell you how history will judge us. How do you know how history is going to judge?
As a very dark period for the United States.
I think we're going to be judged from about 1954 on as being a force of occupation, a terrorist
No,
organization.
David. It's a force for good. We are a force for good. We will
a terrorist force for good.
We will shove things down your throat and be a force for good. That's what we do. We're a force for good, and I hope you take that and tell your kids about that. When we bomb other countries, that's for good, okay? When we kill innocent people, and 10 Afghan civilians died in this drone strike yesterday, and a 3-year-old. So we killed civilians yesterday. But that's a force for good. When we kill 3-year-olds,
I feel like I should be singing behind you. America, yeah, coming to save.
Well, it's like that Toby Keith, like, what, America, we'll stick a boot in your ass or whatever. I mean, that's what we do. We'll shove a freedom boot up your ass. Like, that's what we will do to make you free.
And you're gonna like it. If you don't like it, we'll bomb you.
Right. So we'll do this to you. By the way, we will do this to you from the air. But I Richard Engel here. I don't know how history is going to judge us. But let me stop myself. It's going to be very, very bad history, because I'm already 20 years in the future. I'll know how history will judge us.
It's good graces. So tactically it makes sense, but I'm not sure how history will.
I'm not sure how history will.
History will judge this moment as a very dark period for the United States.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Richard. So interesting to see immediate response here, John Schwartz. If you're curious why NBC's Richard Engel is so upset about the U.S. withdrawing from Afghanistan, he talks honestly in his book, War Journal, about how he knew the Iraq War was going to be great for the careers of people like him. Quote, in the run-up to the war, it was clear that Iraq was a land where careers were going to be made. I sneaked into Iraq before the war because I thought the conflict would be the turning point in the Middle East. Yeah. There you go. And they would make a name for themselves. I wanted to be a great reporter. And he's done great work. Make no mistake about it. But when you are basically saying, we shouldn't be leaving. This is going to be a humiliating moment for the United States. Okay. So thanks for the editorializing there. It's difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on his not understanding it. Upton Sinclair. In case you're wondering why Richard Engel and so many others in the military media complex seem to be struggling with us leaving in Afghanistan. CN Reed. There's big money in being a war correspondent. I used to respect Richard Engel as the mom and aunt of 4 combat vets who served in Afghanistan. I will never watch him again. That's the response. So the Taliban has said it will not retaliate against anyone who's allied with the U.S. or any other Western forces. Now we'll see if they actually meant it. The FAA, as we reported in the newsletter this morning, which you can get, you can subscribe to our newsletter right there, morninginvest.com. The FAA says that the airport in Kabul does not have air traffic control services and that U.S. planes must not land there. No worries. I'm not like, hey, where do you want to go on vacation? Should we pop down to Kabul for a little while? No.
Hit the beaches.
Hit the beaches of Kabul. The next phase in Afghanistan is the drone attacks. So this is what's going to happen now. So we're already starting to see how the next phase in all of this will unfold. It's not surprising.
You know what's unfortunate about all of this, though, is that the fact that we've already found out and verified that they're willing to show videos from 2013 and stuff. So it's like, we don't really know what's going on. We don't really know if the Taliban's even doing the things that they're doing over there, because we're just getting news from propagandists. So it's like, it's so hard to know what is actually going on over there because they never want to inform us. Like when they made the decision to not show soldiers coming home in caskets over there because they don't want us to know what they're doing over there. So it's all highly secretive. And they're probably working with these people to create propaganda to keep us there. I mean, we don't know. Like, this is the kind of stuff they do. This is what the CIA does. They try to create war out of things so they could be saying, hey, drop a couple missiles here. We'll let you get away with that. Like, we don't know what backdoor deals are being done over there for money and all that stuff. It's ridiculous.
I have to admit, I was kind of surprised this morning to hear even on Bloomberg News, they were talking about, that the Taliban, like, we should actually pay attention to what they're saying. They're trying to normalize and be recognized by the international community. And okay, we'll see if this happens. Is this what was trying to unfold in Libya? Remember when Muammar Gaddafi was going to be getting rid of weapons and trying to normalize towards the G7 nations? Is that what's going to happen here? We don't know, because we're getting our news from these war correspondents who are paid by the military-industrial complex to basically be there.
Right, and if we've already destroyed a bunch of stuff, it's so easy for those photographers to go around and say, ooh, like, it reminds me of when, like, Bill O'Reilly, when we would do the Ron Paul events during the presidency, there would be like 20,000 people in a football stadium there to see him. And Bill O'Reilly and his team would go around and they'd look for the drunkest, most irrational people. And those are the people they would interview. So the media does selective photography. They go around and they find situations that make it look like something like, ooh, this will get people in the war mood for war. Well, let's show some babies in these soldiers' hands. You guys take these babies from these people and hold them for a minute. Let's go get these like broken down cars and say that this is because of the Taliban. Like, they can create whatever narrative they want. And that's exactly what they've been doing for how long?
I mean, that's what the mainstream media does. I mean, CNN selectively editing, choosing different things. I mean, all of these people do it because it drives ratings.
You're cracking me up.
Yeah, I know, Brian.
And wasn't it like they just got busted sharing videos from 2013? So
right.
Like, if they're doing that, how do we know these pictures aren't from there? We don't know where any of this stuff comes from. We're just assuming they can create whatever narrative.
We've already reported here on the show how the images that were being shown were faked and they were old. I mean, they were years old. I mean, you have videos, you have photos of these, all of these refugees crammed into a C-17 plane leaving. It was a photo from like 4 years ago. 4 years ago. But it was, no, this is what happened last night. This is what happened last night. Mainstream media feeding you garbage once again. That's what they do.
Of course, the people that point that out, would you conspiracy theorists shut up? Like, that's from last night. It is. Well, then why do I have this on my computer from 2013? Like, right. and you're the person that calls it out is marginalized.
Yeah. So get ready now, though, for the next chapter. So you think that the war in Afghanistan is done? Oh, come on. Oh, the war in Afghanistan isn't done. It's just heating up.
Say what?
That's exactly right, Stewie. So here is we knew this was coming. This was not going to be surprising at all.
And really quick, like, think about this. It's like, now that they've got this new action going on, they have our Black Hawk helicopters, they have our missiles, they have our tanks. Oh no, we got to get a lot more of those made and send some more back over there to take care of the ones that we left. So now they're going to have to spend more money to the war contractors to get more Black Hawks, to get more tanks and all the other stuff, because we got to go rescue those now. Oh yeah, of course. We left $80 billion. I mean, we left $80 billion in this kind of equipment sitting behind. Like, I don't know. It was part of the plan, I guess. I don't know. We're going to turn this over to you. I don't know what was negotiated into the terms of the Trump agreement that was put in place. If it wasn't part of the plan, somebody should be fired, because these guys, like these tactical specialists they bring on the news, like, you think a tactical specialist would have been like, oh, just leave it there. Yeah, just leave these tanks there. Put the keys on the track up above under the gas tank. They won't find it. Yeah, leave the Humvees that you, by the way, made millions of dollars off of when you built these things, these defense contractors. So anyway, the next phase in this war in Afghanistan is now beginning. As The Intercept reports, U.S. drone strike in Kabul killed a family and began a new chapter of a war. This one will all be controlled remotely with drones and even less accountability than we currently have. We had this Sunday drone strike in Kabul that initially claimed by U.S. officials to have destroyed a car that was packed with multiple suicide bombers. Turns out it was 10 civilians from one family, including several children. There was a 2-year-old little girl that we killed.
Yeah. So that's what we do. One of the dead, according to members of the Yamadi family who spoke to the reporters, was a former Afghan military officer who had served as a contractor for U.S. forces, as well as a worker for a charity organization. But get ready for the next stage in all of this, folks, which is going to be the drone strikes. The Defense Department and other arms of the Biden administration continued to describe the drone attack as successful. Like, they're saying it was successful, but they didn't kill any suicide bombers. They killed a family and killed a little girl. How do you live with yourselves? As reports confirmed that the innocent family had been killed, Pentagon spokesperson John Kirby said that the Department of Defense is not in a position to dispute those reports. Oh, we're not in a position. So, yeah, we did kill a family. We're not in a position to dispute those reports. That's another way of saying we screwed up. We launched drone strikes and killed a family and a 2-year-old little girl.
Well, and what hypocrites are we? There's people like arguing that we should be there because they're hanging people from helicopters and all this other stuff. You know what? Yeah, that is a very bad thing, but that's really not our business. That we have allies that murder people in the streets, behead them, and they're our allies. We send them money and all that stuff. So we don't care about people. If we really cared about people, we would be helping the people in this country. There are people suffering in the United States. They don't give a crap about those people, but all of a sudden we care about people over there. We care about their freedom, their basic human rights. When we don't care about the basic human rights, we can help 50% of the people here from starving. We can help 50% of the homeless, or not homeless, but people that need food or whatever. Not all of them, but yet we can care immensely about the people over there. They killed some, children, or they're hanging people. We need to be there. It makes zero sense.
Well,
it's
and
hypocrisy.
If we really cared about them, we wouldn't have invaded the country, by the way. And if we really cared about them, we had multiple times and multiple opportunities to evacuate those people, bring them to the United States. If this is the land of honey, right? Bring them here, show them a better life here, get them away from the Taliban. 60,000 people want to come here. Great. You know what? United States is in a population decline. And I don't know if you've noticed in the United States, but as the musical Hamilton likes to say, immigrants, we get the job done, right? Helping people that you're slaughtering their country, bring them here. Stephen Miller under the Trump administration was absolutely, adamant that we will not open our doors to any Afghani. No one should come here. Close our doors, close our borders. We'll bomb your country. You know where else to go, and then we encourage you to, make roads to go to Pakistan, go slip out and go to Yemen, go to other places. That's fine. Just don't come here. We'll bomb your country, though.
Yeah, if you don't accept our freedom and our democracy, like the perfect country that we have over here, if you don't accept that, we will bomb you and we will kill your children. We will kill your moms, your dads, your brothers, your uncles. We will kill you all if you don't accept our freedom and democracy now. We are a force for good. Don't forget that. We will force you to be good or we will kill you. That's basically what we're doing.
And the only reason we are even getting some of these reports is because it happened in Kabul, by the way, this drone strike. Had it happened out in these remote villages, no one would know about it. That's the thing. It only gets reported locally. But it happened in Kabul. And there was, by the way, in the United States, there was outrage. So in the United States, there was outrage. Hallelujah. Maybe people are finally waking up to these atrocities that we're carrying out around the world. The U.S. war in Afghanistan, as The Intercept points out, has been waged in rural areas away from the attention of the international media. Highly populated Kabul, on the other hand, is the country's center for expatriates, non-governmental organizations, and both Afghan as well as international journalists. When the strike was reported, immediate footage of the civilians who were killed in the attack began to circulate. They even showed the morgue footage of the little girl. Can you imagine, by the way, being the guy or girl running those drones for the United States? And most of those drone programs are run out of Oklahoma. They're literally sitting there playing with joysticks in Oklahoma, bombing people in Afghanistan.
There's a huge facility. There's a huge facility in Indiana. There's a documentary on Netflix of a kid that talks about that, where he was he thought there were kids and stuff in there, and they're just shoot anyway, just shoot, don't question. So they're so disconnected from it. They literally go to schools and look for video gamers.
You know what it reminds me of? It's like the book Ender's Game, isn't it?
Exactly.
You know? It's like, hey, you're really good at video games. Come on here, we got a fun video game for you to play. It's kind of like Grand Theft Auto, but real. It's going to have you bombing countries indiscriminately. Sound like fun?
And the thing is that for a while, you probably believe you probably believe they're the enemy. Like when you go in there, you're like, you think you're going to be doing a good work. Like I'm going to be ridding the world of terrorism until you're looking down the scopes at what you think is a child, and they're telling you to fire anyway.
Yeah,
like,
and this
but that
happens
looks like
all
a
the
child.
time. So this isn't like just a mistake, right?
No.
This is a series of regular occurrences. The Pentagon often releases footage of its airstrikes with the intention of advertising successful attacks. They even released a press release after this successful attack. Turns out it wasn't successful at all, and you killed a family.
It's literal planned obsolescence in the way of human life. They want this to happen. And the thing is, like, that's why I always say this is more like a holy war. This is more like Christianity versus Muslims, because in a lot of ways, like, there's no reason for them to do that. There's absolutely no reason for them to kill kids and stuff, other than they know that it will form more terrorists. There's going to be more people that are going to raise up arms against us because we're over there killing their families. And then it's just an endless cycle of war. Because, like, okay, a kid finally reaches his teenage years. These U.S. people, like, his whole life, these people killed my mother, my sister, my brother. I'm going to kill them. And then all of a sudden he reaches that age where he's going to start doing that. And guess what? We've got a perpetual terrorists being born all the time because of our occupations.
Yeah, and there's no accountability. There's no
Zero.
accountability from the United States. It turns out, according to military reports, like the military doesn't like go and then because it's like this it's like a sanitized version of war. We don't even have to be on the same continent. We don't have to touch it, feel it, see it, anything. We don't have to smell it. We don't have to go and investigate whether or not we actually hit our target at all. And it's so sanitized. And as the Washington Post reports, as U.S. air war in Afghanistan surged in the last few years, under Trump, by the way, this increased under Obama, and then President Trump accelerated the drone strikes, the investigations into the civilian harm plunged, meaning so many innocent people were killed, and we never investigated it. We just continued to fire indiscriminately. Bombing. All the civilian casualties. In the same period, allegations of civilian casualties reviewed by the Pentagon doubled, but the number of in-depth investigations into those allegations dropped by half. Hundreds of charges of Afghan civilian deaths and injuries as a result of the airstrikes received only initial assessment. Because it's just collateral damage. Who cares? They're just Afghans. Who cares, right?
Yeah, it's the collateral damage in the name of peace and democracy.
Yeah. Who cares, right? We can just bomb them indiscriminately. Who cares? And what about what about the soldier too? That, like, then has to live with that for the rest of their life. Like who's the 21-year-old in sitting there in Oklahoma with the joystick that just killed a 2-year-old and an entire family?
Yeah, why do you think suicide rates are so high among vets? I'm not going to say it, but I have a contact that was a Marine over there, and they were sometimes outside of cities, and this was during Iraq. And they would just shoot indiscriminately into the cities, and that's what they were just like left to their own devices to do whatever they wanted. And there were kids that would just, like, kids, because these soldiers are kids, okay? And they would just shoot indiscriminately into these towns, and they were arresting civilians and just mistreating people. And it's just like, this person is completely messed up for the rest of their life thinking of what they did to those families over there.
Oh, it's just disgusting. Well, get ready, because it's not just Afghanistan. So we've got the continued bombing and drone strikes, which I'm sure will go on and on and on and on, right? I mean, unless they literally do an about face and pull back on all of these drone strikes, I just don't see it happening. Will they now get ourselves out of Iraq? Will President Biden have enough balls to get us out of Iraq? I mean, I think he has enormous balls for carrying this out in the face of the Pentagon. The Pentagon, like, staring him down, saying, no, we should not leave Afghanistan. And him basically saying, sorry, I'm doing it. And maybe that'll be his sort of like Gerald Ford moment, where he pardons Richard Nixon and ends any future chance he has for ever becoming president of the United States, right? Like, that was it. Once he pardoned Richard Nixon, basically many people believe it was him sort of taking that moment to heal the country, and he ended his future political career. Is this the end of his future political career, President Biden? Like, he ends this war?
The sad thing is, we have no idea if this was planned, because the thing is, like, if you look at it like this, he gets the credit for pulling out, so he becomes the strong president that's going against the military industrial complex. But then, knowing full well they left weapons behind, all of this chaos is going on now. So now we're going to go back and have a brand new, fresh start to an old war. And then he's going to get credit for being strong about that too, because he went over there and protected the women and the children and all the poor people that they're killing now. So it's like he's going to be a hero on both ends of that. And so to me, I'm looking at the fact that seems like, it just seems too convenient that this is all going on again when all these people want back into war. So I want to give Biden credit. I really, really honestly do. But this is the kind of stuff they've been doing for how long? And until we start looking at it like maybe he didn't actually do this because he wanted to end the Afghanistan war. Maybe they wanted to just escalate it.
And I know the cynical nature of you and me. Look, I'm just as cynical as you are. I totally agree. Here's a guy who voted to go into Iraq in the Iraq war, right? I mean, yes, I don't put it past President Biden at all to have other sort of other ulterior motives here in this. Right now, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, right? I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that he actually is pulling out of Afghanistan and there is no return visit planned, another surge. But I am just sitting there criticizing exactly on the issue of drone strikes. So are we going to remove the drone strikes as part of this now as well? Or will we just not hear about it anymore because it'll be happening in remote villages and no reporters will be there. It'll just be quiet. We won't hear about it.
I'll tell you, if he were to be as strong with domestic policy as he apparently is now with foreign policy, I would be a little bit more on board. But the thing is, he's over there pulling people out of Afghanistan, sure, making a lot of people mad and all this other stuff, yes, but he still has not done anything to help the American people. He still could end student loan debt with a stroke of a pen. He still could expand Medicare with a stroke of a pen. Like, he could do so much to help this country. So why does he apparently have backbone over there but not here?
Well, and, we're going to get to the student loan thing here in a moment because he actually did do that and not in a large capacity, but we'll get to that. But I agree in part. I mean, here, and I don't think he's being, I think what's happening on his foreign policy watch right now is a lot of people think it's a bad move. I mean, you've seen his approval rating has plunged. So I don't think that this is giving him high marks right now. So I don't know, maybe he's falling on the sword. I don't know. I'm going to let it play out. But I do know that warmongers are already turning their attention to another place. Boy, this didn't take long at all. So immediately, I started seeing this. I started seeing news reports over the past 24, 48 hours about, Pakistan. Well, Pakistan. Remember Pakistan? Pakistan didn't give up Osama bin Laden, right?
I was going to say, because that's where, back at the beginning, that's where Osama bin Laden went, Pakistan. Mm-hmm. So now they've got a narrative already forming.
By the way, pretty early on, too. So then we stayed in Afghanistan for another 20 years after he went to Pakistan. And the Pakistani government knew about it. Didn't give him up, didn't let us know about it, right? And now, they don't even have a government formed properly yet. And now there's concerns, of course, that they are, if you're listening to the mainstream media, that, oh boy, Pakistan is going to become the new haven for the Taliban. Forget Al Qaeda. Forget just Afghanistan. No, the real place where Taliban is showing up now is Pakistan. And should we start to put in sanctions on Pakistan and ramp up our surveillance and drone strikes in Pakistan? So here's Laura Logan, war correspondent. Laura Logan with her take on where we should go next.
Laura Logan joins me now. She's reported extensively on Afghanistan and from Afghanistan for nearly 2 decades. She's the host of Laura Logan Has No Agenda.
Sorry.
No agenda. That's funny.
She's the host of a show called No Agenda. And yet she's made her money as a war correspondent reporting from Afghanistan for the last 20 years. She has no agenda, though. She has no agenda. So we're going to bring Laura Logan on the show now to tell us what her agenda is. Laura, No Agenda host, tell us.
On FoxNation.com, part of 21st Century Terrorism Revealed is available now as well. Part 1, I should say. Laura, good to have you here. I want to get right to this Washington Post story and get your reaction to this, because what it says is that after President Ghani fled the palace, and it was clear that there was a complete power vacuum in Kabul, there was a discussion between General McKenzie, the United States General McKenzie, and others, and Baradar, the head of the Taliban, who apparently, according to this report, told them that the U.S. mission was only to evacuate American citizens, Afghan allies, and others at risk. The United States told Baradar that they would need the airport to do that. But Baradar, here's the part I wanted to get to, said to them, we have a problem. We have two options to deal with it. You, the United States military, take responsibility for securing Kabul, or you have to allow us to do it. And apparently the answer was, all we need is the airport. You control the rest of the city, to which Ron Klain, the chief of staff, has just retweeted saying essentially that that they did the right thing. He said, no, we were right not to take over security in Kabul when the Taliban asked if we wanted to, which confirms that story from the chief of staff. Laura, what do you think about all this?
I mean, this is just hilarious.
But I have no agenda, so I just want you to remember that I have my show is called No Agenda. So
actually like having a serious conversation about what the chief of the Taliban told the U.S. they could or couldn't do. I mean, like, does anyone else feel like we're in La La Land or something here, right? I mean, it's ridiculous because you know what we're not talking about? What has the United States agreed to with the Taliban? Has this country, has this government agreed to recognize the Islamic terrorists who were responsible for 9/11 as the legitimate Islamic Emirate ruled?
What? When did the Taliban when was the Taliban responsible for 9/11? When did that happen? Did you take Bill and Ted's time machine and go back and pull Osama bin Laden out of this mess, out of this equation? Now it's the Taliban that attacked us on 9/11?
Of Afghanistan, are they going to empower Al Qaeda with unprecedented legitimacy and power on the 20th?
So you just said the Taliban is going to legitimize Al Qaeda, who actually attacked us on 9/11.
Anniversary of 9/11. That's the only thing that really matters here, because everything that you're seeing in Afghanistan now will be right here in the United States.
Oh, okay.
If you empower not just one Islamic Emirate, remember.
Okay, so to be clear, if we get out of Afghanistan, to be clear, we're going to, the United States of America is going to look like Afghanistan because the Taliban are going to take over America.
But Al Qaeda has its affiliates, right? You've been lied to for years and told that these organizations in Libya and Mali and all the rest of it, you don't need to worry about them. They're not connected, except it's not true. And they share the same ideology and they share the same goal. Inas Haqqani and Siraj Haqqani and the Haqqani network, they are the Taliban. They are also the Afghan Al Qaeda. They are the oldest Al Qaeda members in Afghanistan, along with bin Laden's, high elite guard, fanatical guard. And these Al Qaeda leaders are returning to Afghanistan right now. Some of them were always there. Do you know what we did? You know what we're not talking about, Martha? The United States military and this administration knew that for months, foreign fighters were flooding into Pakistan and over the border.
Here we go. Oh, Pakistan. Okay, let's get to the Pakistan. Let's get to the real story here where we need to turn our attention now is Pakistan.
Why are we not talking about sanctions on Pakistan? Pakistan controls the Taliban and the Haqqani network. The leadership is based there.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, the leadership of I see. Okay, so the leadership, now we need to go into Pakistan. I get it.
So
I thought they were all in Iran. Like, wasn't it just a few months ago that all this was happening in Iran? Like, that's where all the leadership was?
Don't argue with the experts.
Oh,
okay.
Oh, sorry.
Don't argue with the experts.
Oh, that's right. She doesn't have an agenda. We should listen.
She has no agenda, and she does not make her money off of war.
Okay.
They don't do anything without Pakistan. So why aren't we asking Pakistan for answers?
Yeah, why aren't we? And why don't we ask them, instead of asking them, why don't we bomb them? Because usually bombing works better than talking.
If we
well,
really
you know what
didn't
happens? Like Tulsi Gabbard, she actually talked to, what's the guy's name? The guy over there that supposedly gassed his whole people in Yemen.
In Syria?
In Syria, yeah. Like you if you talk to those people, then you're an apologist an Assad apologist. It was Assad that she talked to. So you can't do that. You can't communicate with these people because, you know, we're America. We just bomb. That's all we do. We don't talk.
And by the way, I have supported President Trump talking to Kim Jong-un. Like, I supported actually having face-to-face discussions when other people were critical of that.
This was happening, which, you know, no one with any credibility believes for a second, right? Why aren't we asking Pakistan to stop it?
Oh, yeah. So it's all about Pakistan now. Let's turn our attention to Pakistan. And by the way, you know, send me to Pakistan. That's where I want to go next. You know, I'm a war correspondent. Send me there. I bet you Richard Engel is going to be in Pakistan before you know it. Mark my words. How long will Richard Engel be living in Afghanistan? Probably not much longer. He'll be asked down to move to Pakistan because that's where Taliban and Al Qaeda are now holed up. That's the nest is in Pakistan. Let's go there now. Let's start bombing them.
Can I show you something from 13 years ago?
Please.
Okay, this is and I've talked about.
Is it
this
when
already.
is it when you were young and svelte?
Yes, that's exactly what it is. All right, hold on here.
To worry about Iraq, not Iran. I knew why, because I'd been through the Pentagon right after 9/11. About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who used to work for me, and one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, No. He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They've just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs," meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran." I said, "Is it classified?" He said, "Yes, sir." I said, "Well, don't show it to me." And I saw him a year or so ago, and I said, "You remember that?" He said, "Sir, I didn't show you that memo. I didn't show it to you."
Isn't that crazy?
Not surprising at all.
No, not surprising. I mean, so that just shows you that this has been the agenda for how long?
For a TV, the world is thinking.
Yes, it is. But you know what I mean? Like this agenda, this is planned. Mm-hmm. This has all been planned from that long ago.
Yeah, it's incredible. And, you know, we're going to continue to see the mainstream media showing us these headlines until we start our next war in Pakistan or Iran or with China or God knows where else. But hey, these people need to make money somehow. These people need to eat, right? Laura Logan needs to eat. Richard Engel needs to eat. You know, these people, that's how they make their money, baby. Thanks for subscribing to the channel. You can also become a channel member by going to morninginvest.com/join, where you can stick it to the mainstream media and support independent journalism. We're able to bring you the stories that you won't see on any of the major billionaire-backed networks. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time, everyone.